What is going on, my disciples? Warfare Messiah here, and today we're going to do another premium tank review since my previous one on the Black Prince proved to be quite popular. So today we're going to be taking a look at the American heavy tank T29. So we're on Poland today, and this map suits the T29 quite well. Because although it has an extremely long barrel gun, as you can see, it actually does better at close range. At the level, other tanks are better at long range. So we've got a good map today. So we're going to advance into the middle of the town in Poland. We've got two coaxially mounted 50 caliber machine guns and one 50 caliber machine gun on the top of the turret. And one thing I have noticed the machine guns are actually very good for is when you fire them, they lay down one hell of a makeshift smoke screen, and much better than any other machine gun I use. Right, so we're getting near the battle now. Now, I kind of think of this T29 like a... Oh, enemy tank. A bit like a Churchill 7. It's either completely overpowered in its battle, or it's completely useless. There's no in between, just depending on, you know, which match you get. Ooh, yeah, some unsuspecting enemy tanks. There we go. So I have got quite a sizable shell, considering the long barrel gun is extremely thick, but it will do more damage at close range. And I was just about to blow him up, and that happened. Now I did notice an enemy tank just the other side of this building. So if I'm going to push through and I catch an enemy King Tiger from, well, kind of side on, he is angled, so I pull back and angle myself. Now the T29's turret armor is so ridiculously thick it defies belief. So enemy Tiger 2 down. So if you ever come against the T29 in battle, don't aim for the turret. It's indestructible. The hull, however, is quite average for a heavy tank of 6.7 battle rating. So I'm just going to capture this zone now. Now, I have managed to get into one of those battles where this tank is extremely overpowered. Like I was saying with the Churchill 7, it's either completely overpowered or completely underpowered. So I'm just waiting to capture the zone with my friendly IS-2, and then I'll be pushing up and showing you more about the tank. Now, this tank is actually quite fast for a heavy tank as well. I'm sure you've seen it, it's quite nimble, but don't be fooled, because even though it is fast, it traverses terribly. It doesn't traverse very well at all. Like, I'm going to draw a comparison with the previous tank review I did on the Black Prince, which is extremely slow and has terrible maneuverability. Terrible mobility, sorry. But it can traverse on the spot really, really well. This thing can't. This is the complete opposite. It's actually quite fast for a heavy tank, but it can't traverse at all. Now, this is like the smoke screen I was talking about earlier. The Panzer IV couldn't aim at me at all because he couldn't see. Because I was just absolutely peppering him with the 3 machine guns, not because I thought it would do damage, but because I thought it would blind his shooting. So I've managed to advance to the other end of the map now, which means free reign on all the sniping tank destroyers, like that Nashorn right there. But as you can see, at long range, my explosive shell actually didn't do too much damage. Sorry. So it's going to be a bit tougher to get some kills now. You see I even ricocheted there, but now I've got a tank at point blank, so hopefully I'll be able to finish this dude off. But someone else takes the kill. Now I'm going to push back out again, see who I can see. I'm going to reverse a bit. I should kill him, yes. Even at longer ranges, weakly armoured tank, well, I say the Hetz has a weakly armoured tank, but, you know, I think it's 4.7 battle rating. It's sitting, it's 2 battle ratings ahead, so it is poorly armoured for this level. Now, I took the Nashorn down, finished him off. Normally he'd only be a one-shot kill, but it took me 2 shots this time because of the the increased range. Now, at higher levels, you can get against Jag Tigers, T54s, and this thing proves completely, really hard to play, basically. But I have loaded a small number of APCR shells in case the armor's too thick to get through. But if you end up top tier against other 6.7, a few other 6.7s and mainly 5 point something, you know, mainly 5.7, 6.7s, 6.0s, you probably won't need this APCR. You use the APHE because that'll decimate most things in one shot. Now, one thing about the T29 is that it has ridiculously thick turret armor, but most tanks have a weak point on their turret, and that is their gun breech. This tank is only 30mm thick, which, you know, is about the same as other heavy tanks, but the T29 has such a big gun and such a fat gun, which is a strength, but it's also a weakness because it means everyone can hit your gun breech. The amount of times my gun is knocked out and I lose my gun breech it's infuriating. It's actually makes this thing quite hard to play sometimes. So I've found my little gap. I'm going to side scrape through it. I recommend you do this as much as you can, side scraping, because if you do, no one will pen this tank. So there's another enemy tank destroyer knocked out. So I think I've actually been keeping them pinned down at their spawn, and they haven't actually, for the most part, been able to get back in the map, and we own the whole map. So this game shouldn't take too long. This IS-2 is getting a bit confident. Luckily for him, my gun breech is down again, which, as I said, is very frustrating. So I have to wait for it to reload. That's another thing. If you're using APHE, do not fire with a damaged gun breech, or your tank will just explode. Simple as. Now I've set the IS-2 on fire, so I'm going to pull back. It has got very fast reverse speed, rather much like the IS-2. Fast but forwards and backwards. But as I said, port reverse. So I'm laying down the 50 caliber and fire. Smoke screen, as you can see, there's that big layer of thick smoke on the front of his gun breech that still hadn't cleared when I'd stopped firing. And oh, that was a total walkover for our team. American victory. And we've pushed through the strategically important town and into the countryside of Poland. Oh well. Never mind. I got 9 kills. I didn't need 10. There we go. Not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. So, now we'll go back to the hangar and I'll talk a bit about some of the stats and armour that the T29 has. Alright, okay, so here we are in the hangar. Let's take a look at some of the armour on the T29. Now, its underglacius is only 70mm thick, but it is slight, if you've noticed, it is slightly angled backwards, which is giving it about an average of about 130, I would have said, 130mm. So that's actually a quite good protection from underglacius, because they're weak points on most of the tanks. Now, the physical thickness of the front plate's only 102mm. This is actually really thin for a heavy tank, but it is sloped so well backwards that it gives it an average of about nearly 200, just over 200mm. So if this armor was flat, it would be extremely weak, and everything would penetrate it, I would have said, but it's got an absolutely beautiful slope, so that isn't the case. Not only that, is it's got 30mm of tracks in this spot, in these points. Mind you, there's only 88mm thickness in this gun mantle, and the gun mantle is flat. So if you are aiming at the T29, try and aim for the gun mantle on the hull. Now, why not aim for the turret, may you ask? Well, because the first plate is 203. There's a second plate, that's 305. There's then another plate, that is 50. And the final plate is 158, which is, give us a second, 716mm thick in total. So the turret armor is completely, madly indestructible, other than these two areas. This, which is the gun sight, which is only 38mm thick. There's two machine gun ports, but these are extremely hard to hit, 33mm thick, and they're weak points on every tank. And the actual gun is only 33mm thick to get through the gun breach. So that, as you can see, it's actually an extremely tough tank from the front. From the sides, 158mm, so its side armour is equivalent to the Churchill 7's front armour, which at the level it'll be sliced through pretty easily, I would have said. On the turret, and anyway, on the hull, it's 76-51. So its turret has actually really thick armour at the side, but its hull doesn't. So if you catch it side on, aim for the hull. And the rear, 51mm, you'll have no problem getting through that. But the turret is still 102mm thick at the back. And for the rear of a turret, it's 6.7, that is pretty thick. So a very well protected tank. Now let's have a look at the innards. So there's no ammo stored at the front, so there's just these two crew members that you need to worry about. So if they penetrate the front of the hull, they are actually going to struggle to blow up the tank unless they've got a very high velocity shell or a very high explosive shell. Now you'll notice that there's a lot of ammo clumped around the turret, so if someone was to hit your turret, if someone was to pen your turret, you would likely blow up. But the point is, you want most of your ammo in the turret, because no one's going to aim for your turret. No one will be able to get through it. And of course, there's ammunition on the floor as well. So I've told you all the main things, but what is the main question? That is this worth my money or is it not? Now, in the UK, it's 30 odd quid to buy this tank. I got it while it was reduced, and I got it for 16 quid, and I was more than happy to spend £16 on this tank. I think it's worth £16. I probably wouldn't have bought it full price on the £36 or £36 I think it was, I don't know, 37 maybe. Now I know I've got quite a number of viewers in the United States as well, so I would probably put it between $40 and $50, but I wouldn't buy it for that either. I'd wait for it to be reduced, because there's always like events on in the summer or whenever where the Gaijin are more than happy to reduce the prices of their packages. So I would probably pay the lower price but not the higher one, but it is up to you. You have seen what I think of the T29 premium tank, and that is it for the video. I'll talk to you guys next time.